I have just started, whoops. I am doing a sample broadcast here. This actually is the show number 40. It's the Red Room on December the 29th, 2010. And we are checking my levels with my new microphone, which you can see only if you can see black on black, because it's right here. So Jack is going upstairs. Hi, sweetie, can you see me? I'm just, I shouldn't be raising my voice. I'm just talking to the people who are, okay?
It's picking up some noise
From what?
this hard drive. See, it's right next to it. So it's in the on it. So I'm going to much better, I'm sure. Unless I'm an idiot. Very possible.
You tell other people to,
Still broadcasting?
yeah, and recording.
I'll leave this.
Okay. I am looking at my handout for this evening, and this is part 6 of 6 on lifestyle building blocks. We're going to be talking about building blocks number 16, 17, and 18. It's not working properly?
It's working, but it's not. I'm getting noise.
There's almost no
So we
noise
can go
in
back
here.
to-
Mhm.
big.
Okay.
Let me look at that.
I'm now looking. What we covered last week that had to do with personal power. Okay, thank you, honey. And then we're going to look tonight at part 6, which has to do with your standards and your spirituality, how you serve the world. And these are building blocks number 16, 17, and 18. Okay.
Try it now.
Okay. You can hear me just a little bit
Now
now.
they are.
Okay.
Okay, and I
Which
need to check.
means Jack's
Just
messing
don't
with my
talk to me a
microphones.
second.
Okay.
I just think.
You want me to?
We have a minute.
Yeah.
Say something.
Okay. This evening is actually Red Room number 40. It's a completion number, which coincides with the completion of these 6
All right.
segments.
You are recording. This is good. We just record the whole
You're
thing.
happy? Am I on this mic or the?
No, you're just
I'm on the
yeah,
old
you
one.
can even take this
so
off.
I can take this off.
Yeah, and we can turn this off.
Okay.
And I'm going to go upstairs and make sure I can hear you. I'm sure I can. I'll just make sure it sounded good, okay?
Okay.
And if
Thank
I
you,
don't
honey.
come back, you know everything's good.
Okay. Good. So Jack was trying to set me up with a microphone, better microphone tonight, because he's always wanting better sound quality, of course. But looks like we have noise in my computer systems, and I'm just gonna record the way I've been recording all along, and everyone hears me anyway. And here are the guidelines for what we're going to talk about tonight. And we're right on time. So, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the 40th broadcast of the Red Room tonight. I'm celebrating. It's 40 is a nice number. It's a completion number. And also, it happens to coincide with week 6 of 6 of us moving through looking at all 18 of the lifestyle building blocks. And tonight, it's the last 3 building blocks that we'll be looking at, number 16, 17, and 18. And Jack is still wanting to tweak something. He is decreasing my volume. And
Okay, you won't have to change anything about the way you speak or anything.
Okay,
it's
honey.
Perfect.
Thank you, dear.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you for your patience. So, he thought he was going to innovate, but we're set as we are. So thank you for tuning in tonight. And last week, we talked about part 5 of the 6, and we were looking at personal power. And I'm wondering if you have any questions tonight from the work that we did last week. And the personal power has to do with our personal willpower, the desire of our heart, of our will, and then using our will wielding the power that we have, which is to say yes and to say no, and to determine what we think about, how we express ourselves, and what we decide to do. Our personal, that's how, when people talk about empowerment, and I think about the purest sense of personal power, I believe it has to do with willpower, the power of our will and the power of our desire. So last week, we were looking for our need for a complex perspective, because if you don't have a broad, deep sense of perspective about you and your life, then your goals are going to be too elementary and not deep enough for you really to feel the meaning and the substance of what you're doing and who you want to become. And I know each of us comes to that at various stages in life or various cycles in our lives, where somehow or another there's a feeling in us where we say, is this all there is? And if we don't have a deep enough perspective about ourselves, about life's journey, then there's that it can turn into an angst, where it's like, there's got to be more than this. And sometimes we get to a place of frustration or depression or worry that there's something missing and we can't put our finger on it. So having a complex perspective is one of the things that helps us move out of that, because then we begin to think more deeply and with greater complexity. And then how you, quote unquote, spend your mental budget is the bottom line. What you, out of your personal will, decide that you're going to think about is going to determine who you become and what your life looks like. And then why your success is bound to your restraint and your bad habits. Because if you have or don't have personal restraint, that means that your will, your power, your time and energy are spent on things that are maybe bad habits, and you sabotage yourself, or you waste your time, your life, your relationships, rather than deciding, I'm going to hold back on this, or I'm going to defer gratification, or I'm going to save up, whatever it is, for the thing of real meaning that's really important to me. So those were the building blocks from last week, which were 13, 14, and 15, having to do with your personal power, your knowledge, your abilities, and how you have good habits and goals, and then how you work, how you have a sense of mission in life and serve the world with your talents and with the things that you desire to do. Any questions on any of that from anyone for tonight? And thank you so much for tuning in and keeping me company and hopefully asking me questions. It's always more fun for all of us when one or more of you chime in with some of your appreciation, your feedback, your questions, your puzzles. I love to hear that. As you know, I love great questions. So tonight, if you're ready to move on, we're looking at building blocks for the lifestyle, the last three, which are those three up here at the top, 16, 17, and 18. So the one right there at the top has to do with your character and integrity and your honor, which is you living according to your highest virtues and standards. Some people say values. I think values are broader than that, or don't necessarily always fit into the standards that we have, the character that we want to live to, the virtue that we ascribe to, how we choose to live with honor, sincerity, and goodness. Oh, good, we've got somebody chiming in. What about when you think you already know what you're supposed to do and circumstances keep you from doing it? That's a tough one, isn't it? That means that's part of what I'm going to talk about next week, actually, because when circumstances keep you from doing it, that means that then we've got obstacles sabotage, blocks, things that get in the way, challenges. So we're going to focus on that next week. Because next week we're going to look at the broader picture of goal setting and achievement. Because what we've been doing for 6 weeks is talking about all the goals you want to set. And you're giving me the perfect segue with that question because, yes, fine and dandy. We've now figured out what we want. And now how do we get there? And that's a whole nother system of learnings, isn't it? Sometimes those blockages or those difficulties or challenges are internal. Sometimes they're external. And those circumstances, my dear, those circumstances may be partly in your control and maybe partly out of your control. And so then we want to look at how much you need to adapt to inside and how much you need to set as goals to change those circumstances outside of yourself so you can move forward with the goals that you really want. So do you want to share with me the circumstances? Would that be okay with you? Kind of like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 little bits and pieces about the circumstances, and I can speak better to that? Because absolutely. So tonight, when I say number 1, living with virtue and wonder. So when we look at these building blocks, first of all, it's this has to do with our character and with our standards, our virtue, how we want to live in the way that's true to our integrity, our beliefs, our credo, our honor, the things that we hold sacred in life. And that means internally being able to be true to those things without betraying ourselves or our honor. And sometimes selling ourselves cheaply or making a cheap decision where we compromise our honor or integrity. So I said, oh, you said next week. Yes, next week, that's what we're going to talk about, are the circumstances that get in your way. Right now, tonight is the last piece of looking at what are the goals you want to set for yourself, perhaps internally with your spiritual pursuit, or the way that you want to live according to your highest standards, and the sense of awe and wonder about what's sacred to you. So does that make sense? But if you want to chime in and tell me the circumstances that you have, I will happily chat with you about a little bit. I'm interested in obstacles too. Another person is. Great. Well, that's next week, dears. I hope you can come in next week. Because, of course, obstacles are rather complex. And, we've been setting goals for 18 different building blocks of a great lifestyle. You know that there are obstacles, challenges, things that get in the way, blockages in every one of those. And that's a whole nother part of learning, right? And I will go into that with as much detail as you would like me to. So is there something about this part, this building block number 16, that it has to do with how you can live according to your values, or whether you feel like there's somebody in your life that doesn't allow you to live according to your values, where you end up betraying yourself or your honor, or being two-faced, or so many people are associated with an organization that they trust and believe in, and then they find out that the people there, this may be a business, it may be a religion, it may be a cause of some sort, And the people there are saying one thing and doing another, and in essence betraying their integrity and showing you that they're bad examples of what they espouse. Now, don't take that personally. All of us are doing what we can do. What I want you to take personally is how you live it. And sometimes those virtues are hard for us to hold strong to, especially when we've got other people outside of ourselves compromising those virtues. Cool, I'm clear about what I want, but my problem is clearing the blocks which arise. And that means, dear, handling yourself. Because all we can change is us, how we think, what our goals are, what our perspective is, and what we decide to take action on. So, because we're not here to change somebody else, unless it's our responsibility. For example, if you're in charge of a department in an organization, and it's your responsibility for leadership, then you're going to need to change the process or the experience there. Let's see. She says, or he says, I can talk the talk. It's harder to walk the talk. Trying not to look down on myself for some stumbling. Me too, says the other person. Oh, thank you. This is exactly on point with what we're talking about this evening. That trying not to look down on yourself for stumbling. Now, that's an internal block if you're looking down on yourself. Judgment, if it involves criticism or put-downs, is not appropriate. It doesn't work. It's not helpful. And that's one of the problems that we have when we have certain standards for ourselves, and there are two ends of this continuum. So let me just type here the two ends of the continuum. So remember I talk about the dilemma. On this end we've got a saint, and then on this end we've got a judge, a righteous judge. Where's my lifestyle dilemmas? And this is, in the past I've given this to you as a handout if you have it. If you haven't, you can ask me for it and I'll email it to you. So our lifetime dilemmas, the one that you're talking about here and that we're talking about this evening, has to do with character integrity. And so on one end is cheating or a betrayer. Then on the other end is the saintly, righteous judge. And the goal is in the middle, which is character integrity. Now notice each end, the saint and the person who thinks they're perfect. And then on the other end, the person that says, well, nothing's perfect and this isn't right, and I have judgment and criticism about this, and I'm going to put it down. So both of those attitudes are negative and judgmental and betray character and integrity, which I believe is based on discernment. And that means coupling your knowledge with your empathy. And that gives us wisdom. So if we put knowledge plus empathy equals wisdom or discernment. That's what we're shooting for, where we can make wise decisions and be discerning, not judgmental or critical about ourselves or anyone else, or not feeling like we're a little above it all or somebody else is above us. So that's kind of making a value judgment. Yes, I have my standards that I stay true to, but I'm not going to punish myself or somebody else for not being able to live to that standard unless they're mentored, unless they're taught, unless we're mentored, unless we're taught. So if you fall down on the job, if you stumble, if you judge yourself, there are reasons why. And that's what we want to do. We want to look at what is it that you need that you're missing. Because if you're not able to live the way that is true to you and your standards or your ideals, then there's something missing. And that means you need, now that you're an adult, you need to provide that for yourself. And if you were a quote-unquote perfect human being where you're happy and live to your standards easily and smoothly, that means that your parents and the adults around you when you were growing up provided you with the ease of staying true to yourself. Okay, so try not to look down on myself for stumbling. So, is that making sense to you? Exactly, we don't want you to look down on yourself because that takes away from your positive attitude, your energy, your confidence, your interest in learning and growing and doing it better. K+E W. I love this. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you. I'm glad it's working for you. I do my best to make it make sense. So, when we stumble, think about if somebody around you whom you care for stumbles. What do? Do you look at them and say, you tripped, what's the matter with you? Or do you see them stumble and say, oh, let me help you. That got in your way, or you aren't wearing the right shoes, or you didn't notice that. How can I assist you? We want you to treat yourself that way. Ooh, I stumbled. Hope I didn't hurt myself, number one. And what is it that I didn't see? What is it that I wasn't equipped with so that I could notice that, understand it, and decide and handle it gracefully and with virtue? So this is one of the concepts that I teach so often. And people with very strong integrity and deep, caring hearts oftentimes carry too much of this, where they are always looking to the desire to be the best I can be, right? The problem with that is if you don't have the discernment, the wisdom to know that we're in the direction of growth, and that means that we don't know what we don't know. That means that when there is a lesson, a stumbling, a problem, a hurt, it is the gift, the best source of growth or learning. So when you stumble, instead of judging yourself, dear, I want you to say, ooh, it's a lesson. Ooh, it's a gift. Ooh, something that I can learn more about. That's what I would like you to shift in how you see some of these moments where you know you want to be the best of the best and you're not making it. That just means that here you are, you're up against the edge of a new learning. And of course, isn't that the ultimate gift? Because that's why we're here. We want to learn and grow. So when we stumble, or when there's an obstacle, or when something doesn't work, or when we just can't do it, we're incapable, or whatever, that's the ordeal. That's the gift. And, the ultimate word is ordeal. Because sometimes they're so tough that it is an ordeal because we can't find our way out. We can't logic it. We can't make a goal and a task and solve the problem. It doesn't happen just quickly or automatically or reasonably. It's a more difficult task, which means it's now a learning because it's moving through an ordeal, which means that a learning that is so complex and so meaningful that it's an experiential journey. It's a process. Does that make sense, dear ones? So that takes us right into building block number 17, which has to do with the middle one, with purpose and self-mastery. So this is wisdom, knowledge plus empathy, right? And if you printed out your page for your building blocks, it's right at the top in the middle there. Virtuous thought, words and behavior, a sense of humor, being able to be light about it, which means coming from the spirit of humor and joy and delight, where it's like, oops, I made a mistake, rather than, oh, what's the matter with me? I'm incompetent, I'm incapable. So if we can say, oops, that didn't work. Well, what are we going to do instead? So if we can look at those moments with a sense of humor, we're coming from the very highest level, because we're coming now from a sense of delight, not acerbic wit or cynical humor, but a soft, warm sense of humor. Say, oh, I made a mistake there. What is it showing me that I have yet to learn? A philosophy of life, being philosophical rather than judgmental, being philosophical rather than saintly, being philosophical rather than having hard, immovable, brittle beliefs. We want you to have a credo. We want you to have religious or spiritual or character beliefs. And we don't want them to be inflexible and stiff. Or we also don't want them to be just so loosey-goosey that it doesn't really matter how you behave. Again, there's the continuum, isn't it? We want you to be able to be connected with people in your heart and soul. We want you to be able to be neighborly, to enjoy being neighborly, to be gracious, to be courteous, to have that grace about our standards of behavior, so that we elevate it to that level of grace and courteousness to ourselves as well as to other people. And that really is, I think about that as the good queen and the good king, where they live to such standards that you know you're safe with them, and you know that you're safe with them emotionally as well, because they're always so kind, they're always so courteous, they're always so gracious. Are you relating to this, dear ones? So that's about the self-mastery of the purpose for your character. And that's how quickly I would be able to describe it. Then, of course, there is the final building block, and that means giving the sweetness and the power of your wisdom to the world, making a difference in the world through these abilities of self-mastery. And that means giving back. That means service. That means, for the pure joy and the love of it, using the strength, the standards, the honor, the virtues of being a good human being, that you want to do something in the world to make it a better place, to give back somehow. Somebody just chimed in, but they didn't say anything. Thank you for chiming in, and I'm so happy you're here. So this last one is kind of like the flower of humanity. It's the mission in life that comes from our highest honor and integrity. And this is the contribution to the world. It can be giving back. It can be giving back to your own family, to your neighborhood, to your community, to your city, your country, to the planet, nature, the environment. It can be volunteering anywhere, citizenship of some form, where you contribute your time or your talent or your money to some kind of cause that you believe in
that's sacred to you or important to you, or a religion or a nonprofit organization, the environment, or creating a proposal for setting up your own nonprofit, your own idea to give back. Those are delicious expressions of what we believe in, what we truly believe in. It's always thrilling to find a cause that suits your passion, and then to use your best talents, your greatest love and integrity in expression of supporting those causes. So that's the highest level of contribution in terms of your mission in life. And, you know, sometimes it is associated with your work, or sometimes it becomes your work, the job that you have or the profession that you pursue. And somebody says, and then I got slammed. So tell me, what does that mean? It says, okay, oh, I missed this. What I didn't see is usually 2020 after the fact. Right. So, and then you got slammed. Ah, and there you go. Perfect example. Perfect example of you walked into a situation and you didn't have the knowledge, which means hindsight. Now you have learned. If you come up against that circumstance again, you'll know now, which means you got one of the greatest gifts life offers. You learned, you grew, and you're smarter or more capable than you were before. Let's see here. You're reading my mind. My experience also. Thank you. Founding a nonprofit, doing well, and then, yes. You got slammed when you founded a nonprofit? Is that what you're saying? Doing well, and then it caved in, or it didn't succeed, or the people that you were serving, or the people who were helping you, it didn't work somehow. And that, here we are, talking about one of the greatest sources of growth and learning in life. That's when I was talking about a complex perspective in the beginning tonight, that organizations, businesses, companies, nonprofits, they are somebody's good idea, and they set out to create something that they really want to work, whether it's for income or serving the world or creating a product, or because they have this dream, like restaurateurs. And you know those restaurants. You walk into a restaurant and you can tell this is somebody's baby. This is somebody's dream, and it's really special. And then when you walk into one of those restaurants and it's kind of on its last legs, or it's already dead, because the person's dream lasted only so long, or they didn't have the business acumen or the people acumen to keep it alive and successful and attractive. Those dreams, those art forms, those things that we build, they either succeed because we figured it all out, or they don't succeed, and that's the way we learn what we didn't know, right? So let's see here. Founding a nonprofit, doing well, and then, right, they took it away from me. Yep. So you had a loss. And it grew in a direction away from you or differently from how you visioned it. And most of us have been involved with some kind of nonprofit where this happened. And sometimes it's a good thing. I remember one of my interns being involved in a nonprofit organization that started out stellar, served the community in a way that had never happened before, but then over time, new people came on board, new techniques happened, we learned more, and the truth is that organization is now dated. And the person who founded it has a grapple hold on it and refuses to let it grow and change, which means it's dying. And the good people that come on board in that organization, only the maybe the incompetent or lesser capable people stay. The good people leave because the organization needs to grow and expand, and the leadership wouldn't let it. Or your example, let's see what you got. In my case, now looking back, I truthfully don't think I could have prevented a great failure. I don't mean to place blame on others, but truthfully, I couldn't do anything about it. And so, one of your babies was taken from you, or it grew in a way that you couldn't have predicted, or that you didn't design. And so it could be a tragedy for you, which means a deep loss that in some way or another you're going to have to adjust to. And I'm just wondering if you were to, stand back like you are with me tonight and to think big picture on this. And if necessary to help you do this, you need to stand back and view it as if you pretend that you were Heather talking to you, or pretend that you're you 10 years from now looking back. I'm just wondering, and you could share some of this with us tonight, or it may take some journaling with you for over a period of time, days or weeks. But my question to you would be, what did you learn? Because after all, that's the purpose of life, right? And if you created this and then it failed, obviously there are many things that you learned from the successes, many things that you learned from the failures, many things you learned about the people involved and how you chose that, things that you learned about yourself and what works for you and what is not going to work for you. And then probably learning about what you want to do next when you're ready to do that. What did you learn? Now it's a mess, yes. And when it gets into a mess, it usually collapses in on itself. What did I learn? I learned that I was too giving, too generous with my time. That's about boundaries, isn't it? And does that mean that when you were too generous with your time, you needed to be doing something differently? Or you needed somebody else to be using their time? So when you learn that you were too generous with your time, there are many things underneath that. So the top thing would be your boundaries and knowing how much to hold on and how much to let go of your time and your energy. Let's see. Yes, I'm not a politician. Lots of people are looking for political positions. Yes, and they're looking for ways to be able to use their abilities, their power in the world. And immature souls are driven by fears or selfishness or resentment or anger. Sometimes when we're immature or we need healing, we're driven by the shadow, by negative things. Truthfully, I gave it my all, and everything I put into it was taken away by a stupid majority. Excuse my negativity. Well, you know what? I think of negativity, quote unquote, as being in touch with the real world, because we do make mistakes. There are hurts. There is always the gift and the curse. There is always the dark and the light. I mean, if we're only willing to look at the light, then we don't see the paradox, and then we get the carpet ripped out from under us, because there is a negative. When there's a positive, there's a negative, or you're only looking at something two-dimensionally. So I'm hearing I think you need to hook me up with that person. Which person? The person who gave too much? Or the person who is immature? Who, me? I'm suspecting that you learned many more things here than are readily visible to you. And what I want to remind us all is that we learn oftentimes from our mistakes more than we do from our successes. And we do learn from our successes if we have a good follow-up. You know, after a project is complete, we have a meeting and we say, how did this work? Why does it succeed? What were the elements that made this turn out? And then a follow-up process of how come it failed? How come, how many elements here do we have to learn that contributed to the failure? So, you know, if you had a lot of negative people or immature people or selfish people or people who don't conduct themselves, obviously, with courtesy and discernment and grace, then did you have a choice about those people? And if you put yourself in a position where you couldn't have a choice, then you've got to be able to roll with that, right? If it's an organization where people are elected or they volunteer, then you're in a place where if the leadership isn't clearly laid out, you're going to have to adapt to the people you get and understand that there's only so much success you can achieve unless, you know, the guidelines are very clear about people's role. You first. What's your email? My anonymity is pretty important right now. Yes, you can definitely share your email address. I'm happy for you to do that. Heather can hook us up. Yes, I can. Email me, dears. So just both of you email me at my email address. There you go. Just email me, both of you, and I'll hook you up. Tell me that you're the two that want to talk. That's great. I love that. That's one of my dreams for the Red Room, is this becomes a community where we support each other. Not just me to you and you to me, but you guys to each other. It's special when you tune into the Red Room. It says you've found a group of kindred spirits. And also tonight, another pioneering moment. Jack is completely redoing my website so that it will be a living thing with my blogging capability. And that means that I'll be able to talk to you and you can talk to me. And we'll have that interaction ongoing and not just in the Red Room. So that's a celebration for this evening as well. Okay. Let's look at specific things for you to set goals. Now, I love what the person said about having this, let's see, what did she say? He or she. I gave it my all, and everything I put into it was taken away by a stupid majority. Now, I'm going to correct you because when we get into wording things like that, we kind of drive ourselves into a negative corner. Now, yeah, it was negative. However, as I said previously, we usually learn from the hardships. We learn more. You know, when something is working, if it ain't broke, we don't fix it. We don't need to fix it, which means we're not growing there. We're preserving something, creating something, but we're not really growing. When something doesn't work, that's the golden moment of growth, because that's when we ask ourselves, or the circumstance asks us for something that we haven't yet mastered or been able to do or understand or know how to handle ourselves. So that's the golden moment when you say, I gave it my all and everything I put into it was taken away. Now I want to remind you, be accurate, not everything was taken away. If you're still talking to me and you're still sane, then not everything was taken away. And your ability to be articulate about this. So obviously, this aroused a deep passion in you. And that means you were given something. In essence, your fire of desire has been stoked because you're passionate about this and you're seeing the stupidity. And yeah, people do stupid things. They're not informed, they're not skilled, they're ignorant, they're wounded, whatever it is. And then that stops us and we start contemplating a whole nother level of complexity about that particular topic. What is it that I need to do to prevent stupidity or to place people in the roles where they're going to be successful and not sabotage something? How do I next time set up something that I care deeply about and make sure that it's organized in such a way that everybody is protected from the people who have stupidity and they're protected from themselves as well? So it wasn't all taken away from you, dear, because you now have knowledge. You now have a whole lot of experiences that it sounds like taught you very stringently so that you'll never forget that. So it wasn't all taken away from you. The most important part is who you are and what you've learned and how you've grown. And that was given to you. So careful to be in touch with what you still have and what you've now gained. Okay, let's see. What about when I've been unemployed for 18 months? At what point do I stop and say this isn't working and what am I supposed to be learning? That's a good question and it's a complex question. If you've been unemployed for 18 months, there's a discerning decision to make. Because we need a paycheck, we need to be able to pay the rent. And it may be, sometimes it's that the job that you're meant to have isn't ready for you yet. And that we take on something that maybe isn't a part of our, your professional goals or your career track. And you do something just to pay the rent. And maybe you're earning much less than you ordinarily would. And yet when you show up to that job, you meet somebody there that becomes a lifelong friend. And so that the job is not only just for a paycheck, it's not about your career direction, it's about who or what you encountered there. And so if you haven't found a job in 18 months and you need one, just go get one, whatever it is. And it may be gardening. It may be working in a retail store. It may be helping out at the museum. Whatever it is, find something where you get a little paycheck until the one that's right for you, that's going to take you on your career path to the next level comes along. And maybe that's not the one. Sometimes it means that your growth lies in another state, city, or country. And it's hard to know, for me to know that. Let's see here. I've been trying to get someone to hire me to do anything. Good. And I'm wondering what has come up that maybe you felt wasn't suitable or was going to ask too much of you. Because sometimes the things that we need to do next feel like I have to lose too much, I have to give up too much, or I have to leave something, and yet it's taking us in a new direction where we're expanding and growing in a way that we couldn't have predicted. And sometimes it's the ordeal of moving through not having a job and having to hold true to our strength and our not let ourselves get depressed by keeping ourselves connected with people and activities and doing things that feed our soul. So I'm thinking that from what you're saying, there are probably more complexities than we can solve or talk about just from this dialogue in the Red Room. Probably you need some one-on-one mentoring and some to look at all the specific pieces of what you've experienced. 18 months is a long time. It's hard to hold up and not get depressed and very discouraged over a period of 18 months. And I'm wondering what you're doing with your creative energies. In a certain way, if you're not doing somebody else's work, one of the things I would want is for you to be doing your own work, which means writing a book, designing a new program. You can create anything in your mind. Your mind is infinitely available to you. And that means for you to be designing something, learning something, researching, writing, using your creativity in some way, creating small, simple products out of the creativity that you have. Whether it's just writing letters for somebody, or greeting cards, or helping with a nursing home. Something that uses your creative energy so you keep that movement of your spirit, your sense of honor and grace in the world. I wish I could assist you more. And that's I'm sure that there are people around you empathetically saying, what do we need to do to help you to move forward with this? And that can be quite a challenging thing. It can be extremely complex and it may be, sometimes it can be the valley of the shadow of death or the dark night of the soul, where we are so bereft of light at the end of the tunnel that we have to just keep plodding and trudging day to day through the dark, knowing that we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and yet maintaining our faith that the light will be there if we just keep moving. That, dear heart, when you're in what we call the destroyer phase, and this is part of the hero's journey. And you can find this, you may already know this, in Carol Pearson's book. And the destroyer phase comes to us each in our own way, in our own time. And the goal of the destroyer phase is that we learn in the depths of our gut and soul and spirit the meaning of pain, suffering, tragedy, and loss. And that sometimes everything is ripped away from us, or what we need most is not brought to us, nor can we find it on the journey, because it is important that we learn deeply the humility of human pain, suffering, tragedy, and loss. And that's not being negative. It's part of how we are grown profoundly when we understand, when we know the human experience, of the dark night of the soul, the valley of the shadow of death. Really and truly, it gives us the greatest point of character of all. And thank you for being here tonight, because that's what we're talking about. And the greatest fruit of character refinement is the virtue of humility. And humility is almost impossible to just decide to develop. We develop it by thinking and conceptualizing for ourselves true equality, which means there is no one in the world more worthy than me, and no one in the world less worthy than me, which means I have a sense of humility. I am no better and I am no less, and that we are all equally valuable. We may behave differently, but each person is deserving of respect. Not the behavior sometimes, but that person. And that the highest level of humility comes to us after we've been through the dark night of the soul, because at that point we've learned so much through our own anguish, the meaning of pain, suffering, tragedy, and loss, that at that point we are pretty much fearless. We have already experienced looking death or loss in the face and have suffered. And after that, there's very little to be afraid of, which means then we have true humility, where we know our value and we know the value of other people, and we don't struggle with that, am I greater than or less than. I hope this is valuable to you. And I'm so glad that you're still moving, which means that may be all you need to do, dear. That may be the whole purpose of this time, is that you just keep moving. And sometimes that's all we can do. And even with the discouraged exhaustion of the tragedy, just keep moving. And sometimes even losing connection with your faith, but just keep moving. I wanted to share with you some thoughts about ideas for your goals, for your goal sheet on self-mastery, on expressing yourself, and on contributing to the world. So that your goal sheet was there for you to download tonight, and to write in here something that you want to improve or add to yourself or your life. And some of these ways, there are 1,000 ways, thousand probably, that we can do this. And what I want to encourage you in is that when you think about serving the world, please look at using your best and strongest talents. Not just serving at a soup kitchen, although that may be where your best and strongest talents are. But for example, if you understand how to handle money, that you go to the people who are having a really hard time, who don't know how to save, who are in debt, who are scared to spend even though they've got lots, and take that talent to help people to understand financial security. If you are great with children, take that talent and use it where the children are. So take your best talent and find a place to give it to the world. Serve on the board of an organization. Go into sports, arts, music, working with the environment, with hobbies. Somewhere where there's an organization that you believe in. And I just recently took a photograph of a poster. There's a poster up in our local Starbucks. They're looking for people for the Museum of Natural History's organization, where they help the archaeologists dig up the bones of a dinosaur. So that's, anything you love to do in your city, you can usually find somebody or a group of people who is doing that and needs your assistance, your help, or your good cheer, your money or your time. Choose a cause and champion it on your own in your city or your country. Become a local charity fundraiser for whatever your favorite charity is, or change it every year or every quarter. Become a notary public where you take care of those kinds of things for people. Teach Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, your elders, the adults. Teach do-it-yourself car repair, home repair, landscaping. Run for city, township, county, state, or national office, parks. Help in a library. Get involved in a religion. Teach inheritance management. Handle public relations for nonprofit groups. Teach job application skills. Create or teach others how to make a website or a blog. You know how to, I've set several people up with, I have to share this with you, with their own free blog. And what you do is you go to wordpress.com and you can set up your own free blog. You can also do it on Blogger. There are various ones, but WordPress and Blogger are right there. They're so easy to find and so easy to set up. Everybody needs to have a presence on the web. And if you know how to do that, it's very empowering for people who are a little cautious, you know. Or get somebody on Facebook and then send them pictures. Help the poor or elderly file their legal papers. Join a naturalist group. Serve with the Peace Corps. Doctors Without Borders. Things like that where it's a significant chunk of your life. Sometimes you give 6 months or a year of your life to a cause like that, which is unforgettable and life-changing. Taking a real sabbatical, maybe for a weekend, maybe for a year. Adopt a pet. Volunteer to care for animals. Drive a bus for a local transport company or a school or a church. Foster bike and hiking paths. Be a museum or garden docent or tour guide. Help out at a public school. Goodness knows, I don't know how the teachers do it. They need and use all the help the parents in the neighborhood can give them. Go to the volunteer center to find your favorite charity. And for our area in Dallas-Fort Worth, this is the place. It's the Mecca. It's volunteernorthtexas.org. It didn't, before the internet, it wasn't quite so easy to access, but volunteernorthtexas.org has dozens of organizations, and they put up their needs, and you can go there and say, that's interesting. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know about that organization. Ooh, I'd like to help there. Ooh, that one's in my neighborhood. So for the 18th building block, tonight, finishing out looking at building your goals for the 18 building blocks of a healthy lifestyle, I hope that you've been able to put in something for all the 18 building blocks. Not that anybody's expecting you to have all those goals in motion, but as I said in the very beginning, if you don't determine your goals, somebody else's will determine who you become and what your life looks like. And you're special. We need you and your goals to be expressed, to be developed inside, to be expressed, and then to be in some way or another given to the world. Any questions, dear, before I sign off from the Red Room tonight? Red Room number 40. And yes, next week, just before the new year, we will be talking about looking at those goals that you've set now and making sure that you're now able to set them in motion, which means looking at what you need for two things: motivation and getting over your obstacles. Oh, somebody says, thank you, Heather. You're so welcome. So we're going to look at motivation. What motivates you? Because you've got to be motivated to make these goals move or to make the changes needed to go forward. And let's stop what I call self-sabotage. Whoops. Get my spelling right. Stop self-sabotage, which is stopping the obstacles that get in your way. Sometimes they're external, sometimes they're internal. And there's always something that you can do about it. So thank you for tuning in tonight, everyone. Thank you for being here for Red Room number 40. I'm so delighted to share this with you and with the questions that you had tonight. They were absolutely germane. And good luck to the person who is still looking for a job after 18 months. I know you'll get there. And thank you for sharing with us. And do keep moving and keep the smile on your face by doing something with people that you really like and feel safe with. Thank you so much, dears. And good night from the Red Room. I'll see you next week, same time, same place.